In this episode of our series, we'll look at what speciation actually means, population isolation, the role of natural selection in all of this, and the person behind the theory, Alfred Russel Wallace. Evolution, as we learned in a previous episode, leads to the development of lots of different species over time. This process of creating new species is called speciation. Let's take a look at what this means. A species is a group of similar organisms that can reproduce to give fertile offspring, while speciation is the development of a new species. Speciation occurs when populations of the same species become so different that they can no longer successfully interbreed to produce fertile offspring. In other words, they've evolved into separate species. How does this happen? It starts with isolation, where populations of a species become separated, often due to a physical barrier appearing between them. For example, floods and earthquakes can create barriers that geographically isolate some individuals from the main population. Mountains rising up, rivers changing course, or even roads in cities can separate populations. Imagine a population of beetles living in a forest that gets split by a new motorway being built right through the middle. The beetles on one side can no longer mate with the beetles on the other side because they simply can't cross the busy road. This physical separation is the first crucial step towards speciation. When populations are isolated, the conditions on either side of the barrier will be slightly different. They might have different climates, different predators, or different food sources. This may mean different characteristics will become more common in each population due to natural selection operating differently. Let's continue with our beetle example to see how this works. Perhaps one side of the motorway has darker soil, whilst the other side has lighter, sandy ground. On the dark soil side, beetles with darker coloration will be better camouflaged from predators like birds. Meanwhile, on the sandy side, lighter colored beetles will have the advantage because they blend in better with their surroundings. Each population shows genetic variation because they have a wide range of alleles. In each environment, individuals with characteristics that make them better adapted to their surroundings have a better chance of survival and are more likely to breed successfully. So the alleles that control these beneficial characteristics are more likely to be passed on to the next generation. Over time, the gene pool of each population changes in different ways. Think of it like two separate breeding programs happening simultaneously, each selecting for different traits. After many generations, our beetle populations might become so genetically different that even if the motorway was removed, they could no longer produce fertile offspring together. The dark beetles and light beetles would have become entirely separate species through the process of speciation. An important scientist in developing the theory of speciation was Alfred Russel Wallace. He was working at the same time as Charles Darwin and was one of the early scientists exploring the idea of speciation. Wallace's contributions to evolutionary theory were absolutely groundbreaking, yet he often gets overshadowed by Darwin's fame. During his career, Wallace independently came up with the idea of natural selection and published work on the subject together with Darwin in 1858. This prompted Darwin to publish On the Origin of Species the following year. Wallace made observations as he traveled around the world that provided lots of evidence to support the theory of evolution by natural selection. For example, he is most famous for his work on warning colors on insects which were used by some species to deter predators from eating them. Wallace's research took him to remote places like the Amazon rainforest and the Malay archipelago, where he collected thousands of specimens. His detailed observations of how species varied between different islands helped build the foundation of our modern understanding of speciation. Understanding speciation helps us see how the incredible diversity of life on Earth has developed. It's the process that has created the millions of different species we see today, and it continues to happen all around us. In our next episode, we'll explore the fascinating evidence for evolution from the fossil record.